I don't know. That seven's a lot. Maybe, because some of my online intros, like they're only 8 weeks, so they're over in October, and then the next one starts. That's not too bad.
Like 8 semester classes out.
Right? Oh, well, there's no loss. How is everybody hanging in there? Okay. Have a good weekend. It rained a little bit. Not a lot, not enough. I was hoping it would rain enough to cancel my overlapping games on Saturday, but it did not. Like, I had to have 2 soccer games at the same time, and my children were brutally beaten on both teams, which was a little sad. It was like 6-0 and 5-0, but hopefully it's only up from here, right? It's gotta get better. Lots of good football this weekend, which was amazing. I was so glad to have football back. Then my kids were very mad. I was all like, I'm gonna put on the game. They're like, no, it's almost over, right? I'm like, no, it's just starting. We got a lot of weeks of football left to go. So anyway, nice to have a good weekend. I want to talk for 1 minute about something before we get to the homework I gave you, and I'll give you a few minutes to kind of chat about the myth of mental illness homework that we had last time. But if you're looking at your syllabus, the first part of the paper is due on Wednesday. And before you get super like anxious about that, it's really brief. Didn't realize that that's coming out, but I want to talk about it just for a moment. The diagnosis paper part 1 is due on Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. on campus. So remember, for this class, you're writing 1 paper split into 3 parts. This is the first part. It's only worth 10 points. But you obviously want to make sure you get those 10 points. Kind of an easy 10 points to get. What you'll be doing for this, if you're on Canvas, if you're on our Canvas shell here, let me go to the student view. And you go to modules. It's right here. So here's the diagnosis paper assignment instructions. And so for this first part of the paper, it's really brief. Well, all I'm asking you to do is kind of commit to your character, right? So which show or movie that you're going to be doing. You can change it later, but obviously the more times you change it, the more work it makes for you. So try and pick somebody that you're going to want to stay with. And if you scroll all the way down at the bottom, here's where you'll be submitting it, where it says diagnosis paper part 1. So let's click on that. And it has the instructions here for part 1. So for part 1, you'll turn in a brief statement, including your movie or show selection, and then the citation information and a short description. So it doesn't need to be in any particular kind of formatting, but what I want you to have in here is your show and your character selection. So whoever it is that you're going to be doing, just 1 character, and tell me who and why. What are you interested in? Do you have any like early thoughts? Again, really brief, just picking a character. And then I want you to give me the citation information for your show. And it doesn't have to be formatted in any way. I just want it there so that you can use it later. So if you're doing, I don't know, just give me a show. If you're doing a movie. I love it. Thank you. Silence of the Lambs. Please. Perfect for this time of year too. I watched my first scary movie last night. I watched that one and I'm like, let's start out strong. That movie's terrifying. I couldn't sleep afterwards. But Silence of the Lambs, perfect. So you chose that, right? Then what you would do is you would give me the title of the movie, the producer, when it was produced. And I don't care what format, I just want it there. So that when you get to the later part of the paper and you need to format it, it is there. So in total, this should be about a paragraph and then the citation information, and that's it. So again, which character you're choosing and why, and then give me the show and the citation information. You'll be turning it in right here on Canvas. So if you are on this link and you go up here, see how it says start assignment up at the top? If you click on that, it'll give you a spot to upload a file. It doesn't allow you to do pages. So if you have a Mac and it's pages, you'll have to convert it. Canvas doesn't handle pages very well for whatever reason. So make sure you're uploading like a PDF or a rich text file or like a doc file, and you'll be uploading it on here by Wednesday. at 11:15 p.m. Yeah,
So we only need the citation information for the show.
yes.
Okay, the names.
And then which character and why.
No, yeah, but like, I'm not citation. wise.
Yes, yeah. And so just for that, and again, it doesn't have to be in APA style. Don't even worry about that. We'll talk about that a lot later. Just have it there so you can use it later. Yeah.
Like the musical.
Yeah, I mean, you can pick anything, but if you go up here, I put a bunch of them down here, show suggestions. So there's a bunch of movies here. Any movie or show is fine, as long as you have a character that interests you and you have enough information. I've even had people do video game characters, and that's totally fine too, as long as you have enough background to do that. So just think about a character that you would want to spend some time diagnosing. And you can go one of two ways in this paper. The most traditional route is to take a character and argue a diagnosis. Like, I believe this person has this disorder, and you go through and support all of that. But if you wanted to, you could also argue against a diagnosis, and that would be fine too. So let's say you have a character in a movie or a show that has been diagnosed and you disagree, you could argue against it or argue for it. Any other questions about this for now? Anything else about this first part of the paper? I'll remind you one more time on Wednesday, but I just want to put it on your mind. It's not a lot of work, but obviously if you can commit to a person now, it makes less work for you later. All right. So, right, back to my huge list. Oh, look, you can't access my big list of classes here from that view, but there they are. So, all right. So let's go take a moment here. I gave you a quick homework assignment, and I hope you found it interesting to read. It's not the easiest read. Did anyone listen to me read it? Yeah, I forget the word that I messed up on, but it wasn't too bad. But what I want you to do is just find a couple of people around you, take maybe 2-3 minutes, and just share your thoughts about what you wrote down. Don't worry about sharing what Zaz said, but worry about talking about what your opinions are, and then we can talk about it together. So just a couple of people around you, whatever's easy. Go ahead and talk about it for a moment. Yeah.
How I'm characterized different where individual has they have tendency you know, they're just that's like I just White tie. I was like,
Together. I wanted to give you a chance to see a very, very different perspective, right? So remember that Zaza's ideas are not mainstream ideas. Right? This is like a polar opposite kind of chance to think about this in a little bit of a critical way. But I'm curious, how many of you agreed with him at least a little bit by show of hands? Right? Anyone like completely disagree with his ideas? Right, a few people. Interesting. So thoughts? Anyone have any thoughts about that you're willing to share, whether you agreed or disagreed? Where were you at? Yeah.
For me, I thought that it was a really refreshing perspective where I think that, well, my favorite perspectives of mental illness are the cognitive and humanistic models for the reason that they pay a lot of attention to the oft overlooked facts that thought patterns, memories, and traumatic memories, well, on top of that, that they have a very large role to play in how somebody's symptoms, their behaviors and beliefs manifest within them. And that as much as I think it's useful to have a variety of general labels for different expressions of what we consider as mental illness, that it's just a complete misnomer to call it an illness, because they're more just patterns of thought and expression that can result in somebody their life being disordered or being discriminated against.
Okay. I like that, right? And when you were talking about it being a misnomer and like I said, you have an illness, and so it sounds like you kind of agreed with him a little bit, right? Yeah, right. Oh, I love it. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Harsh generalization.
Sure.
Because he basically made a very broad statement. Oh, anyone who says they're mentally ill is just using that as a scapegoat. I feel like that's a really hard stereotype, because then that's stigmatizing mental illness.
Yeah,
And I also feel like I found this article very, very hard to read.
it's difficult to read.
He used a lot of very big words, and it kind of sounds like there's people who use very big words to sound smarter.
Yeah,
And I had like a stroke reading it. I was like,
and I'm really glad you said that, because I promise you, you're not alone, right? It is a difficult read, right? And it feels almost artificially challenging at some points, right? Like he's using bigger words than maybe you would have to, right? Any other thoughts? Other opinions at all? Anybody else? I mean, I get to read them all, but anyone else want to share what you were thinking? Almost a hint? Yeah.
I thought, we, at a previous job I had, we would read different essays on different things culturally. And we called this kind of essay, this person was a flamethrower.
Mhm.
So for me, the entire gist of this was almost secondary, because this person's whole point would be to write an essay, like I was saying, to my classmates here. My essay would be that everybody over 25 should be put to death. Because the young are the strongest and the young are, and I'm just like, well, the whole point of that is to get a reaction.
Right.
And it's almost like the man was saying the secondary, because he was lost in this sort of inflammatory tone of voice.
Yeah, and I like that, right? Definitely trying to stir the pot, get a
Yes.
reaction, and I think it's important to be aware that not everybody agrees with this idea of mental illness being something that we recognize, that we diagnose, that we give all this attention to. But it definitely feels like his purpose was to more, kind of light that fire, right? And get everybody talking about it. This was a really old book. And I think I mentioned that last time. It was written in the 60s. Right, but he also wrote an article, I'm gonna say about 6 years ago, and still kind of reiterated a lot of the same stuff. You know, we've learned an incredible amount since he wrote it initially. And generally, most people tend to disagree with him, but I did want you to have that chance to kind of think about this critically. A lot of people criticize this system, but we don't really have a better one. So for better or worse, this diagnostic system that we have and labeling things as mental illness is what we have. But it definitely isn't perfect. So if you want to make sure your names are on those, go ahead and pass those up. If you did the extra credit, you can pass it up with it. It's totally fine.
And then the pause.
Got it? Do I have everyone's? All right, how excited are you? Get to the disorders. Ready to get anxious together? Hopefully not. I don't want you to be anxious, but we get to cover the disorders today, which is very exciting. We've set the stage. We're here, right? We've talked about how we viewed mental illness in the past, all the different models, which you'll see over and over again, starting when we get to these disorders today. We talked about how we assess someone, we arrive at a diagnosis. Now we finally get to the disorders. So what you'll see as we go through these chapters is we'll talk about some of the big disorders within each cluster. This cluster would be anxiety disorders. And with each one of them, I'll write up some of the diagnostic criteria, the symptoms that you have to have in order to be diagnosed with these disorders. And we'll talk about some of the models that might influence what causes them and how you treat them. And so that's what we get to start here. And anxiety disorders are by far the most common of all disorders. A lot of people suffer from anxiety. And anxiety is a little bit different than an anxiety disorder. And I hope I don't offend anyone with the picture, but I thought it was funny. And so sorry for that. Right. Did I blow the candle out? I think I did I? Right. We'll talk about OCD a little bit as well. But anxiety is something that is very normal and typical. I would argue if you didn't have anxiety ever, that would be abnormal. Every single one of us experiences anxiety. Feelings of fear or like apprehension, typically caused by something identifiable or reasonable, and it goes away with time. So when you go to take an exam in a class, I would say it's completely normal to have feelings of anxiety. Your grade is reliant on your test score. And so you might have some anxiety and it might cause you to feel a little worried. Maybe it drives you to study a little bit more, but that would be completely normal. Let's say you took a test though 3 weeks ago and you're still anxious about it now, even though it's done and over. That would be a little abnormal, right? Like that would be kind of beyond like normal anxiety. I'll share with you, the night before a semester begins, the first day before school semester, I don't sleep like at all. I'm so anxious and scared about the next day. I lay there at night and I'm like, will the projector work? Will the computer work? Will I have enough spots for everyone? Will my pants fall off? I mean, I don't know. Like I worry about everything and nothing. Will the power go out? I could go on. Like I don't sleep that night. I haven't met any of you yet. I'm so nervous about it. Especially this year. This is the first year in person in like 2.5 years. Right. And so I had so much anxiety, and I would say that was totally normal. But if I'm still not sleeping every night before class, 5 weeks into the semester, I would say that that's gone beyond like normal. Okay, so anxiety is normal, it's typical, it's identifiable. Anxiety disorders is when it's more extreme or unrealistic or debilitating. It's affecting your life in some way. And we'll talk about some of these disorders, but I want to mention kind of two things before I do. And one of them is that it's a very common psychology student phenomenon to think that you have every disorder that we talk about, right? So I just want to put that out there into the world. As we go through these, if you're like, I have that, and I have that, and I have 78 disorders, right? No way you do. Maybe you have one or two, right? More than that is unlikely. But we all have the elements of every single disorder that we're going to talk. Okay, so when we talk about OCD, we all have a little bit of that. Right? We all have a little bit of anxiety. We have a little bit of like mood related shifts. It's only when it starts to affect your life and become like debilitating in some way that we view it as a disorder. So if you think you have every disorder we're talking about, know that that's normal and it's not possible, right? And you can look into them more if it sounds like you, but you definitely don't have all of them. There are also two criteria that are common to every single disorder. And I want to put them up on the board once, and then I'll never write them again. But every single disorder has two criteria that are common. One of them is it must cause significant distress or impairment. And we'll talk about the difference between like what's typical and what's atypical as we go through, but it has to cause you significant distress or impairment. It has to interfere with your life in some way. Okay, so it's gone beyond like a normal amount to actually causing you distress and impairment. And the second criteria that's common to every single disorder is it cannot be caused by a general medical condition or the use of a substance. So the disorder cannot be caused exclusively by a general medical condition, so something exclusively medical, or the use of a substance. So if somebody has anxiety because they're using a drug, technically that's actually a drug-induced disorder. We'll talk about that more when we get there, but it creates sometimes like a little bit of a chicken or the egg debate, like did the anxiety come first or the drug use comes first? And it matters, and we'll talk about that more in chapter 10. But these two things are common to every single disorder that we'll go through. So just keep that in the back of your head. It has to be impacting your life, and it can't be caused by a general medical condition or the use of some kind of a drug or a substance. Our first disorder. So the first disorder we'll get to is called generalized anxiety disorder, sometimes GAD for short, generalized anxiety disorder. And with this disorder, this is somebody who has a lot of vague but intense fears and anxieties, not attached to any one particular object or circumstance. So this is somebody who's kind of constantly worrying and anxious about everything all the time. And so what you get here is someone like this, right? Like, don't let the ceiling fall down on my head tonight, right? It'd be like sitting here in class, like, what if my pencil runs out of lead right now? What if I have to go to the bathroom? What if the power goes out on the projector? What if I run out of pages? What am I going to do about this later? Just constant. Everything causes you anxiety. And a very common term for someone who struggles with this is to call them neurotic. Right? If somebody's neurotic, it means like they can't control their anxiety, they can't control their emotions. That's very, very typical with this disorder, that somebody just has a lot of apprehension, a lot of anxiety, but it's not attached to one thing. It's kind of everything. And they're constantly worrying all the time because of it. I have a great example of this, and then I'll put some criteria up on the board. But if you've ever seen the like Lemony Snicket's movie, the series of unfortunate events, there's a character in there named, a really good example of somebody struggling with this disorder. Again, it's not attached to any one particular thing. So we'll talk about when somebody has fear or anxiety only about one thing, that's very different. But we say someone to have this, they have to have excessive anxiety or worry about a variety of things for at least 6 months Okay, so remember with every disorder, we're gonna have a duration piece. Where's that fifth D that I added? So for at least 6 months, you have excessive anxiety or worry about a wide variety of things. And then you have to have 3 or more of a whole variety of symptoms that people often present with. So one of them is that people are often very restless or on edge. And if you're constantly anxious, it's hard to calm down. You're kind of on edge and restless all the time. You tend to be tired or like fatigue easily. And a big part of that is oftentimes poor sleep is another symptom. If you're anxious and worried about everything, I'd like paper towel. Throwing things here. If you're anxious and worried about everything, it makes it hard to sleep, right? It's hard to turn that off so you sleep at night, which means you're often tired during the day. You might be kind of tired easily because you're giving a lot of energy to your concerns and your worries and anxieties. If you have poor concentration, hard to focus and concentrate on the current moment with all these other thoughts and worries going through your head. Oftentimes irritability. Cranky, kind of on edge and restless can lead to someone being kind of irritable, right? Again, because they have so much anxiety going on, a lot of muscle aches or soreness. When you're stressed out, you tend to clench your muscles, right? Which can cause a lot of muscle aches to occur. Very common for people when they're anxious to like clench their jaw. And what that can do is lead to headaches and like neck pain as well. And then finally, I think those are all the big ones that I can add. Yeah, I think I feel good about those, right? So restlessness, so being on edge, tired and fatigued easily, poor sleep, poor concentration, irritability, muscle aches, right? Worry and anxiety about a variety of things for at least 6 months and having 3 or more of these. Right? Anyone feel like you have someone in your life that fits these criteria? Yeah, any comments or thoughts or anything? Yeah. Okay.
No, it's not.
So just kind of always worrying about everything. Right. Yeah. Again, neurotic. It's kind of a common term for this. Somebody who is just constantly under a state of anxiety or worry or stress. And I love this picture, right? That's not a sin either. My goodness, you've worried yourself to death, right? It's just constant worrying, which takes a toll. It's exhausting to have that level of anxiety all the time. And there are a couple of different perspectives that explain this really well. There's 2 of them, 2 of these models that we talked about. And the cognitive model is a really good one. From a cognitive perspective, we look at somebody's maladaptive thinking or worrying patterns. And oftentimes from this perspective, we would say that somebody has this disorder because they have some basic irrational assumptions about the world, inaccurate and inappropriate beliefs. And that's causing them too much anxiety and to worry too much. Right. So if that's the case, that you have some really irrational beliefs and assumptions, we're going to try and change those to help you feel better. And a really kind of popular way of doing that is something called rational emotive therapy. And this guy over here who's smiling at you was Albert Ellis. And I love that he's smiling because he was actually a really like aggressive, very, very aggressive type of therapist. He's the kind of person who would just call you out right away and be like, that's a ridiculous thought. There's no merit in whatsoever, almost shaming you out of it. And some people really love that, and some people really hate that. One very common type of therapy is to challenge those assumptions. You're sitting here worrying that the ceiling's going to fall on your head. That's dumb. What evidence do you have to support that? I'm not that mean. I would never say that to somebody, especially like a client, but he would often do that, right? I'm going to directly challenge your belief. And if we back up, we can look at that in a nicer way. Like, what are the odds that the ceiling is going to fall on your head at night? Is that something worth worrying about? Right? What would be the worst that could happen if you did run out of ink in your pen, or you did have to go to the bathroom, or the power did go out? You know, just kind of looking at each thing that's causing you anxiety and kind of challenging it a little bit. What happens from this perspective is people engage in what's called meta worrying. They worry about stuff. And then they start worrying about the fact that they're worrying about stuff, which leads to more worry, which causes more worry, and they just get in a worry loop. Right, so trying to break that cycle and challenge the assumptions, change the reactions and the concerns by kind of debunking them a little bit. And it can be hard because somebody will just come up with a new worry, but you go through them and you teach somebody to start doing that on their own. So hopefully they start checking the facts on their own in the future as they start to have new worries and concerns. So it's a very popular perspective for GAD, looking at basic irrational assumptions and worrying patterns. The other one, from a biological perspective, looks a lot at heredity and also GABA. So two components here. You can inherit a tendency to have generalized anxiety disorder. Now, how do we know that you inherited it biologically versus watched a parent who had it and developed it? We don't, right? It could be a little bit of both. But we do look a lot at things like GABA. GABA is a neurotransmitter. It stands for gamma aminobutyric acid, which I won't ask you, but it stands for that. And what we notice is that people have very low levels of GABA when they have this disorder, right? Or at least that's our hypothesis anyway. And if we believe that to be the culprit, we can give you a medication to help you, right? Benzodiazepines are very common drugs used to help with anxiety. And the most common of them are Valium and Xanax. I'm sure you've heard of those. They're very commonly used and abused drugs. Valium and Xanax are wonderful for helping you to calm down, but they do often make you very sleepy. There's something that can be difficult to take during the day because they tend to make you very sedated and sleepy. Also really common in the media, you see people take like a Xanax and then they feel better instantly. It takes about 20 to 25 minutes for a Xanax to take effect. So if you ever see somebody take one and feel better instantly, that's completely in their head, right? It's completely that like placebo effect and the power of the mind. It can take about 20, 25, 30 minutes for these drugs to actually kick in and make a biological impact. So we can give somebody a medication like Valium or Xanax. You can also help somebody learn to calm down on their own through deep breathing and kind of focused meditation or mindfulness. But these are the two big perspectives here, looking at thinking patterns and then also biology in terms of like low levels of GABA, which we can treat with medication. Any thoughts or stories or questions or anything here with GAD before we get more specific? And yeah.
There's this class of drugs called gabapentinoids that's become very popular recently. They're the fifth most prescribed type of psychiatric drug in the United States, and they're generally seen as harmless, but they actually come with a host of risks where they're similarly addictive in the same way that benzos can be.
Yeah.
They can contribute to serotonin sickness. They can cause involuntary muscle spasms and much of other nasty stuff where I feel like short-term prescription of these drugs has really helped to mitigate, how much of a debilitating effect that they can have on patients where I think that makes treating these sorts of disorders really tricky with the aid of psychiatrics is that, therapists and psychiatrists really have to coordinate and make sure that they're hitting it right in order to prevent the medication support from causing complications in the treatment plan.
Yeah, these are very, very addictive drugs, right? Because what happens is you take something like this or like a different drug that might help with that. Sometimes the antidepressants are often used for this as well. But you take a drug and you feel better, right? Think of like operant conditioning. You've just reinforced the use of that drug like pretty heavily. And so these can actually be incredibly addictive drugs. So they are meant typically more for like short-term usage. And it is really important to make sure you're pulling, right? So people are learning ways to handle the anxiety in addition to maybe having a fallback. If they need, like, if it gets high enough and they need to help, a little bit of help calming down. Right? Yeah, it's a great point, especially over these last 2 years with everything with COVID and like isolations and quarantines. I mean, the anxiety as a culture that people have had is just through the roof. And so we've seen a lot more prescriptions of drugs to help with anxiety over the last couple of years, for sure. All right. Similar to anxiety, but one level up, fear. Fear is our nervous system's physiological and emotional response to a threat. Okay? And fear is completely normal and completely adaptive. There are plenty of things out there in the world that can hurt us or even kill us if we're exposed to them, right? So having fear of snakes, not abnormal, right? Having fear of spiders or heights or, certain things that scare us, it's fine, right? We all have things that we probably would rather not encounter, right? That things that we are a little bit afraid of. I watched The Nun last night and I was convinced that Valak was in my house, right? But I felt like it was still fine because I just watched it, right? Like every corner I went around, I'm like, it's dark, right? You watch a scary movie and you get afraid, right? And that's normal, that's fine. But this can go too far and you can develop things called phobias. A phobia is an intense, paralyzing fear of something that is excessive and unreasonable. If someone is afraid to fly, they might not want to get on an airplane, but they will. Maybe they have to have a drink or they try and avoid it, but they will still get on a plane and fly. If someone has a phobia of flying, they will likely not get on the plane, even if it's at the expense of missing something really important to them. My sister-in-law has an intense phobia of flying, and she had to drive multiple days to get to our wedding years and years and years ago, because she wasn't willing to get on a plane and make a 2-hour flight. Right now she will get on a plane, but she gets absolutely trashed on the plane and her teenage kids have to help her through it, right? But she will get on a plane. It's quite entertaining to watch. But oftentimes people who have a phobia have that extreme level of reaction. It's beyond fear and it's typically excessive and unreasonable. Now, something like 1 in 10 people have a phobia. And there are a lot of very common phobias. Your book has a whole list of them. But things like spiders and snakes, heights, confined spaces are very, very common. From an evolutionary perspective, people tend to have common phobias. Now, I have a phobia of spiders. Spiders is one of mine. I am terrified of spiders. I told you I no longer eat Oreos anymore, right? I told you about the Oreos because of spiders. And my cousin ruined Oreos for me and I can't let it go because I'm so terrified of spiders, and that spider being in the Oreo is more than I could handle. I oftentimes will like about spiders. Did we talk about the tarantula that was in this building in this class? Or was it my other class? Like, so 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, there was a massive tarantula down below, kind of a couple doors down from my office. Okay. And I have had nightmares about this tarantula for like 3 weeks. I think about it every day that I walk on campus, and I'm convinced it's in my office somewhere, right? I hope it isn't, but I'm convinced it's in there. I called maintenance and somebody came and removed it, but I didn't watch them remove it. So I have this doubt in the back of my head that it's still like somewhere. And it doesn't help that my partner was like, well, it probably went in your office. I was like, are you serious? Why would you say that to me? Now, like, I'm terrified of my office. I'm convinced it's hiding in there. And I bought a spider bomb so that I could bomb my office just in case it happens to still be in there. Okay. I do not like spiders, even daddy long legs, which are barely a spider, terrifying. Right? And that's not uncommon for somebody who has a phobia. Like if I see a black widow, like I'm done. Like I can't, just talking about it, my palms are starting to get sweaty. Right? I don't know, anybody else have a phobia of spiders? Am I the only one in here? Right. That's a couple of you. That's good. If there's a spider in here, lots of people to get it. Not me or you or you. Yeah.
I was gonna say I had a similar experience a little while back where my phobia is actually of parasites.
Okay.
And there's this type of bug that's native to the Southwest called the kissing bug, and it carries a real creepy little parasite in it. Okay. And when I found one in my room, I just absolutely like tore the place apart, sanitized it, and even though well, it got away. So because I didn't find it, I've been like just losing it about this little thing.
That's the worst, because then you keep wondering what it is, right? Where did it go? Is it in my bag? Right? Like, is it in my room still? Like, oh, it's the worst when they disappear. Anybody else have a phobia? Either you or someone in your life? Anyone want to share? Yeah.
It's like a deep ocean.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that just came out the other day. It was on oh, it's a long name. You can look at it. Somebody could look it up if you want. Super common. It's one of the most common phobias. And Jaws was the #1 horror movie for a long time because of the number of fears it caused of the ocean.
Wait, people don't like.
Yeah, terrified of deep water.
What about like?
I don't know. What about for you? Pools,
No,
not
just the ocean.
just the ocean, right? And so some people it might be a pool, others it might be a lake, it might be the ocean. Deep water is very, very common. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Really? Like, do you know where it came from or? Huh. Oh, come on. Okay. And that's really specific. I mean, and you can literally have a phobia of anything. Oftentimes they come from something, but we aren't always aware of what it is. Anyone else? Yeah.
It's really is, but I'm like type of kind of foods.
Bees. Okay. Yeah. Right. And again, someone who's afraid of a fear, which a lot of people don't like bees. I mean, no one wants to get stung, right? But we're terrified. You'll do anything to avoid being exposed to them, right? Are you laughing? You're like, oh, yeah.
There's a time where like go on a run and I'm like outside and like from the house and my neighbors were like outside and this bee and I'm like running around.
Yeah.
And my neighbors were probably like.
My daughter easily has a phobia of flies. And we're like, these flies can hurt you. Like, it's all they do is fly. And like, that's their name. Like, they're not scary. Like, she absolutely will run and scream when a fly comes in the room, which is detrimental when we go, yeah, to say the least. But it can be anything, bees, right? What else? Anyone else have a phobia?
This was terrified of butterflies.
Butterflies.
Like absolutely like.
Okay.
You wouldn't start like. Type of fear.
Well, that level of fear. Okay.
Yeah, it's really fun sometimes. We love her, but
Right.
one year my dad decided to just wrap like all her birthday presents and just butterfly and like everything was
That's so mean.
but it was
And it's so hard because when it's not your phobia, it's such easy prey, right? Like, yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah, my in-laws will put fake spiders in my shoes just to see my reaction. Yeah, they're real kind. They'll put them up the lampshades, you know, anywhere. If you've seen Arachnophobia, awful movie. Like every time I pour out cereal, I'm expecting a spider to be in it. And they sometimes will do it. They'll put like fake little plastic ones for Halloween. Yeah. That's so mean. Yeah, yeah, it's easy when someone has a phobia of something and it's something that isn't harmful. It can be like incredibly comical, right? Like butterflies aren't scary, but when that's your phobia, it's a completely different reaction. I got my mother-in-law back. I don't know. I feel like I should tell you the story. I don't know why. I could keep it to myself, but why? So my mother-in-law years ago, she put a fake spider up a lampshade. She put it in my shoes. She put it in my cereal. She like just went overboard for the week. And I decided that it was time for me to do that. Right. And so this was right after Paranormal Activity came out, the first one. And my mother-in-law is absolutely terrified of possession and like demons and that whole idea. And I was like, oh, this is perfect, right? I know exactly how I'm going to get her back. So after like 3 or 4 days of her getting great laughs out of the spiders, I waited and she was staying overnight at our house. And I went in her room and stood over her bed while she was sleeping. Waiting for her to wake up, kind of like waiting within the movie. I just stood there and stared at her. And she didn't wake up, started making noise. She woke up, fell out of the bed, peed herself. I was in so much trouble with my partner, but it was worth it. So worth it. Right. I got her back, right? It's too easy when somebody has a fear of something. Phobias are so excessive and unreasonable. And I have a really cool video that shows this woman who's terrified of feathers and birds. And you can see her reaction to something that isn't scary to most people. If you have a phobia of feathers or birds, just a little warning, that's what it is in here. But what I love about this clip is you get to see her physiological reaction. I love that you can see that reaction, right? The way that her heart rate just shoots up, the adrenaline rushes through her system. You could see her heart rate just absolutely skyrocket as a result of being exposed to a feather. That's very typical when somebody is exposed to something or even thinks about something that scares them, and they have a phobia of, it causes that kind of physiological reaction. I will share with you, and I don't know why, again, I have no filter when it comes to that. I took a drink out of my water halfway through that and I checked it for a spider. Like I checked to make sure the tarantula wasn't in there. Like it could be, and I just double checked really quickly, right? And again, that's the element of like that phobia. It stays with you, and you think about it even after the event. Maybe a very intense experience. Yeah, right. From our heart going up. Yeah, and people can, right? It can lead to a heart attack for some people, for sure. Was there yeah?
You said it and then check,
What was that?
said the water and.
No, I checked it first. Yeah, no, I checked it before I sipped it. Right, that would have been counterproductive. Social anxiety disorder is another one. Social phobia, it used to be called social phobia. A lot of people have social anxiety. This is why that speech class is so notoriously like unpopular. A lot of you just laughed, right? Like there are some of you who will probably never say a word in here because you just don't want to, or maybe you have some social anxiety. I put the speech class off until like the last possible minute too. Like a lot of people do not like to eat or talk or perform in front of other people. It's one of the most common phobias. A lot of people struggle with this, enough so that it has its own name, and they changed it to social anxiety disorder. You can literally have a phobia of anything, of any item whatsoever. And again, it's excessive and unreasonable and typically caused by something that happened to you. Very common with phobias, like they talked about with Jackie, she had an event that happened when she was younger and it caused a phobia for her. Okay. Sometimes people will have something like you mentioned with your kayak, like that happened, right? That led to a phobia. A lot of you who have phobias, if you try and think back, there was probably something that happened or something that you watched or modeled or witnessed that might have led to it. Now, I can trace my back as a psychologist, like I'm always trying to figure everything out, including like my own stuff, right? I can trace my phobia of spiders back to preschool. Right? In preschool, I was locked in a bathroom with a bunch of daddy long leg spiders in the dark, right? Preschool bullies, I don't know where the teacher was. Those mean preschool bullies locked me in a bathroom. The lock and the light were on the outside of the bathroom, which is the dumbest design ever. And so they shoved me in there, turned the light off, and I don't know how long I was in there, but like forever, probably a minute, I don't know. But by the time I was let out, I had spiders all over me, right? And ever since then, and they were daddy long leg spiders, which is probably why I like those spiders so little, even though they're my favorite spider. I can trace my phobia back to that. Now, in like the worst circumstance ever, I was actually bit by a brown recluse as a teenager. I was volunteering for a wilderness therapy camp in Utah. And I was the first person documented in the Utah desert to be bitten by a brown recluse spider. Great luck, right? No. That's awful luck. The worst, like I almost lost my foot. Like I had to have massive surgery. And like that only further, yeah, they're the second deadliest like spider in our area, in our region, just beyond a black widow. Brown recluse, y'all, they create it has a venom that eats your skin. And so I have a massive gouge out of my foot. I almost lost my foot from this. And of course, I'd be the first person ever to be bitten by this spider. They didn't exist in that area before me. Lucky me, right? Yeah. Yeah, the skin turns black. They have a very like a flesh-eating like venom. Very, very, very dangerous. What was that? You have to have surgery to remove it, right? So I lost a big piece of my left foot. But at least I didn't lose my foot. It really worse. But oftentimes phobias come from stuff like that. Watching a movie that you were too young to watch and you didn't know the difference between what was real and what wasn't. Something bad happening to somebody else. Phobias of germs are at an all-time high right now because of things like COVID and the diseases that have been like rampant in our culture for the last couple of years. And so what we see again is that conditioning plays a big role and that there are common fears, right? There are a lot of things that are common because from an evolutionary perspective, we're more vulnerable to them. When it comes to treating phobias, we talked about these really briefly before. We'll spend a little more time today on them. The behavioral perspective is really the most commonly used. From a behavioral perspective, we develop phobias because of conditioning, because of an event that happened. And so let's decondition you or recondition you to get rid of that phobia. And we can do that through a couple of different exposure treatments. One of them is called systematic desensitization, and one of them is called flooding. Very, very different takes on a treatment. Systematic desensitization is a slow, gradual desensitizing to whatever it is that scares you. So if we run with my fear of spiders, for example, you would create a fear hierarchy. So I would say, what is the lowest level like item of like a spider fear? So maybe like a picture of a spider would be the least scary. And the most scary would be like holding a spider and letting it crawl, right? And then there'd be some items in between. And what you would do then is you would have a picture of a spider and they would show it to me. And on a scale of 0 to 100, I would say how anxious I feel. And let's say maybe 20, right? And then I would deep breathe and calm down, and we would pair it with relaxation. And they show me the spider again. And we do that over and over again, desensitizing until it's a 0. And then we move up to the next item on the list, right? And so maybe it's like touching a picture of a spider. Like I have this picture here, I'm always like, I could totally do that. Right? Like I can do that, like as long as I don't look at it. And then maybe nervous, like my palms are sweating. But you would go up the hierarchy one step at a time, right? And it's a very slow process, but it's very, very successful for people who do it. Flooding is the complete opposite. If somebody has a fear of something and we want to flood them, it's like ripping the Band-Aid off. It's a very fast and intense exposure, with the idea that if we give you a massive exposure to something you're afraid of, a normal exposure won't scare you as much. Right? I have a clip of somebody who has a fear of heights, who's going to undergo a flooding procedure. And I want to play this for you. You'll notice in the clip, he cries, he swears at the people, right? He's really, really upset